Always trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
The Mayak plant in the southern Urals, birthplace of the Soviet Union's nuclear weapons program. Today it reprocesses spent nuclear fuel, but 50 years ago, Mayak suffered what's thought to be the world's third worst nuclear accident that was covered up until the 1980s. Vast areas of land were contaminated, including Ozersk, a city built for Mayak's workers, and so secret it was left off maps. Activist Nadezhda Kutepova's father and grandmother died of cancer, as did many others. She campaigned for the truth about the contamination and compensation for Ozersk's residents, but fled to Paris after she was accused of being a traitor. So, what's life like in a so-called closed city? Why do people still live in Ozersk? And what dangers remain? We find out as Nadezhda Kutepova talks to Al Jazeera.
Nadezhda Kutepova, thanks so much for talking to Al Jazeera. Growing up, when did you realise that you were living in a special place, a so-called secret city?
And maybe I understood it when I was a schoolgirl, and we were traveling with a group of school children in the pioneer camp in the south, and we were prevented by the leader of our group that if somebody arrived and asked us, where are you from, we should tell that we are from Chelyabinsk. And then there was one situation in airport. One woman came and she asked me, oh kids, where are you going? Are you traveling? And we said yes. And she asked us, where are you from? And we said, we are from Chelyabinsk, we were ready for this. And she told, oh, I'm also from Chelyabinsk. From which school you are? And you know that I remember this terrible feeling of fear that our teacher prevented us, that spies is around, what I should tell. If I tell something wrong, I will be arrested. And in this moment, maybe I began to think that something special in our place, but I did not know what exactly. Because even in school, when we wrote the letters about where you're from, where your parents are working, I always knew that my mother, she's a doctor, and my father is an engineer. But the question was, what your father is doing during your job? I asked it, and he told me, I make a paper for candies.
And did he ever tell you what he was really doing?
In reality, he was working in reprocessing plant, which we name among us like a plant 235. I have never talked with him about his job because he died when I was 12 and he was ill by very serious cancer from 83, 85. In this moment, of course, I have never known something about the job. Of course, I heard something from my mother, like radiation, something influence, but I did not pay attention for this.
Well, for decades, the outside world mostly didn't know what had happened in Mayak back in 1957, the explosion that occurred. Tell us about what actually happened and what effect that did have on the local population, the local environment.
Mayak was built like an answer for the American nuclear bombs to produce the plutonium for Soviet bomb. And when they began to produce plutonium, they produced many types of nuclear waste, and they dumped this nuclear waste, high-level nuclear waste, inside the river, which is situated there. It's the Techa River. They did it during 3 years, and finally they understood that it's very dangerous because population began to began to have leukemia, and began to give birth children with the defects. And they stopped and they began to keep high-level nuclear waste in underground tanks. And exactly these underground tanks exploded 29 September 1957. 20 million curie were exploded in atmosphere, and the area 23,000 square kilometers were contaminated. Their explosion was a big But at the same moment, people who were working in Ozersk, in this moment, they did not think that something serious happened because it was the first years and there were many explosions for soil to organize the underground space for reactors. People in villages which were situated around Ozersk, they were not informed. They knew that something secret were built there. They were evacuated and the villages were destroyed. We lost 23 villages after this accident situation, and the area, like I already told, 23,000 square kilometers were contaminated. But the general data today that 272,000 people were irradiated after this accident.
What convinced you that the accident and that the plant were actually killing people living in the local area? Because officially, there's been no study, there are no real figures about the numbers of people who've died in Ozersk and the surrounding areas compared to other parts of Russia, have there?
No, of course, after the accident, the situation was terrible, and the most of people there have a radiation disease which arrived immediately after contamination, and it was visible. It was not like a long time effect, it was an immediate effect. So the scientists and the doctors who were working in this moment, they saw these consequences, and for this reason they took decision to evacuate people from this dangerous zone. After this situation, there were created two institutes which began to study health of population. This institute is situated in Chelyabinsk, and another institute which studies the health of population of Ozersk is situated in Ozersk. From this moment, they began to make a scientific study. Of course, if we had no dangerosity, they have never organized it.
Because your own father died of cancer, but even on his death certificate, they didn't use that word, did they?
No, in the Soviet time, all information about accident were secret. Even people who were working in the plant in this moment, like liquidators, they signed special paper to keep a secret.
So why then do you think so many people through the decades have decided to stay in Ozersk? What keeps them there, given that they must know the health risks of being in that area?
You know that the people of Closed City, it is a special civilization, maybe we can tell so, because the Closed City, they were built in the empty place in the forest. And the people who built it, they were specially brought for create this city, create this production, and they keep secret, keep ideology, and grow the new generation to continue this job, to defend our motherland.
And people in Ozersk had a very high standard and quality of life, didn't they? They had good education, good healthcare, good food.
Yeah. During Soviet time, we were like a state inside a state. We always were under leadership of the Moscow, and we had a good quality of life, and it was a big contradiction with the people who were living around on the contaminated area, because they were really poor. We can imagine the Closed City, it's like a bottle of glass with a roof, and there is a picture around. So people who are inside, they see the picture which is around, and the government just open this bottle and give you the food and then closed. So we are a little bit isolated society. And even when the information about all contamination were opened, it was 1989. In this moment, the special propaganda arrived for us, for people in Closed City, like of course there were some accidents, but it was not so terrible like people around us tried to imagine. And yeah, of course they are ill, but they are ill because they made a marriage between the family, inside the families with the close relatives.
So they were blaming inbreeding and people having alcohol problems. That's what they said.
Yeah, exactly.
You set up an organisation to try and help people living in Ozersk. How do people respond to you, and what were you trying to do to help them?
I was in the conference, environmental conference in 1999, and the person from the environmental department of our nuclear city made a report. And for me it was like a shock, because he told the proof, and he was official from our city, and he was telling about contamination after teacher dumping, and he told about contamination after accident, and also he was talking about current contamination, because there is a current contamination. And I was shocked, and I arrived and I asked it, why you did not tell, why you does not tell this story in our city? And he told me, nobody in our closed city does need this information. People prefer do not know. And in this moment, you know, that it was like a milestone for me. All the puzzle make a right place in my head, and I have decided to create NGO and defend the people. In 2003, I organized a human rights public department, and we began to work like a professional NGO to defend rights of people who suffered from Mayak accidents and for people who are living in closed city of Russia.
But there were attempts to effectively silence you, to intimidate you, to bully you. Tell us what happened.
From first moment, Mayak tried to control us. For example, our first program, it was a defense of pregnant women's rights, and the public relation person arrived to check us either we tell something for pregnant women about accident of 1957. It was like a little bit paranoia for them. And 2004, the FSB, they forbidden our first sociological research, because it was my dream to make a sociological research of mentality of people of closed city. In 2008, it was a story with intimidation for unpayment taxes. They announced that our charitable money, it's profitable. We should to pay taxes for this money, and it was a long time process, 2 years, with a visit of FSB people to kindergarten, to children garden, with a visit of somebody for my maternity clinic when I were there. They arrested our account, but finally we won in the court, and we were checked many times. But this last story with the recognition us like a foreign agent, NGO, we did not survive. I think that the beginning of last story, it is a case, it's much more terrible case for me, because I identified the death of 6-year-old girl in little village Karabalka, which was born in 2005 and which died in 2011 from the cancer of liver. And this cancer were officially connected with the influence of radiation on her grandmother. And it was situation very cynical, because grandmother who was liquidated, she is alive, the mother is alive, and the little girl died. And I tried to receive the compensation of pecuniary damage for mom, and we applied with the application in local court, but we were rejected. And court told us that in 1957 there was not legislation about pecuniary damage, and so today this mother can't receive this compensation. And it was very loud in our region, and many people called me, and exactly this story was a base for the recognition as like a foreign agent, because the court announced that it was political activity to criticize the judgment of local court, to try to change policy of Russian Federation in direction of victim of Mayak. Then regional TV shown the film Nuclear Heart of Russia, and the head of the mayor of our city, who was the head of local FSB, told that I destroyed the nuclear shield of Russia, tried to create a chaos in nuclear closed city and closed reactor. For me, it was, from one side, it was a little bit funny because I knew that I did not do it, but at the same moment, it was a really serious accusation. And when my advocate and the Federation of Human Rights advised me to leave Russia, I did it. because you know that activity against the security of Russian Federation, it's a crime, state treason, and the punishment it's 20 years of prison.
So you came to Paris with your children. How difficult was it for you to leave Russia, to leave Ozersk?
I had two feelings. First feeling was I felt myself like a traitor of people, because you know that many people in region, they connected with me their hopes on justice. Even in many cases we did not receive the results. Sometimes the fight for your rights, it's also results, it's like a fight for justice against injustice. And at the same moment I feel myself that I lost the roots. I feel that I was absolutely outside situation, and I lost the connection with my people. It was really difficult. Even when I arrived in Paris, I refused to ask a political refugee during 3 months, because I wrote many applications to Russian prosecutor, to ombudsman, to FSB about it. Why the first channel of Russia, Russia 24, accused my organization in espionage? Do you have evidences of this? Can you give me something which prove it? And I hope maybe if I receive the good answer, I can back. And for me, of course, the Paris was not Paris like for people who arrived here for another goals. For me, it was a city of exile.
Mayak now is used to reprocess nuclear waste, not just from Russia, though, from other countries, including, I think, Norway and Germany. Do you think that Mayak is capable of handling the amount of waste that is being sent now, and is it being planned to be sent there in the future?
I think that Mayak is not capable to reprocess nuclear waste, because reprocessing of nuclear waste is very complicated technology. And like a final point, Mayak received many types of nuclear waste. It's a high-level nuclear waste, middle-level nuclear waste, and low-level nuclear waste. And until today, Mayak continued dump different type of waste in different natural reservoirs, which just change the status. Yesterday it was a natural lake, today it is technical reservoirs, but it's just paper who changes status. And the problem is today that the Mayak can't handle by this, and the nuclear waste continue to dump, to go to the open river, around which we have 4 villages with a population 5,000 people.
Well, one of those recent incidents, there were reports of a radioactive cloud, weren't there, floating over Europe. Russia denied that it had indeed come from that particular area around Ozersk, around Mayak. What do you believe?
I suppose that it could be oven of vitrification of reprocessing plants. What they are making in this oven, they mix the glass with a high-level nuclear waste. And you don't understand what is happening exactly, you just know that ruthenium should be kept in this camera, and also there is a filter which normally should take, they must to change it regularly, and maybe something happened in this process. If we analyze the story of all Mayak accidents from 1949 until 2007, these accidents were never recognized by Mayak. It's always the society who pressed them or prosecutor. I think in this situation they will be continue tell no, because Mayak, it's not only local enterprises, it's a part of global process to receive a market of nuclear waste. And now in the region and even a level of country, they tell about who are from our concurrent, from our name enemies organized this process, because you know that it's always much more easy try to find enemy instead to admit yourself guilty.
Should countries that send their nuclear waste to Mayak, should they bear some responsibility for what happens to it then? Because, of course, Russia's being paid a lot of money to take this waste and reprocess it at Mayak.
I'm not sure that Russia takes money. I think the nuclear department Rosatom takes money. I think that foreign countries should not send their nuclear waste in Russia, at Mayak exactly. First of all, because the area are really contaminated there, and the population suffered and continue to suffer today. And I think there is something like a game with documents which gives for Mayak right to make a reprocessing, because usually when the Mayak want to receive a contract with different countries, they announce that you know that the situation is really good. We stopped dump nuclear waste in natural reservoirs and the Teche River, and we improved the situation. But like a person who were a lawyer of people who still suffer, I can constate that it's not true. For example, if you go to the official site of Mayak, you can see the official report that Mayak stopped to dump nuclear waste in the end of 16 years. But why they did not publish the judgment of Chelyabinsk court that the former director of Mayak were accused in contamination of Teche River in 2006. It's a prosecutor who made the expertise and who constated that in 2005 Mayak dumped 60 tons of nuclear waste inside the Teche River, and the water in Teche River was a real nuclear waste, and the population continued to live there. They don't want to publish this information, and I think when they receive the documents to have a capacity to make this international contract, they lie.
And there is no outside international jurisdiction, is there, of what happens at Mayak? Is anybody monitoring what takes place there?
You know that before this situation with ruthenium, I really believed it, that somebody of outside, like an International Agency of Atomic Energy control the situation. But now I see no. Because you know that I'm working in this direction during 20 years, and I had no any contact with a person of international agency. And even, for example, we had a meeting during common conference, for example, during climate change conference, and I tried to make a question about this. They always tell, no, Mayak, it's a military problem of past. Even now, I'm living 2 years in France, and I have a possibility to contact with people in international level, and I sent some letters for some people in international agency. I received this contact and no any answer. I don't know, maybe they are afraid me.
So how worried are you that there could be another serious accident at Mayak?
You know, every day when I go to sleep, I think about Mayak and my idea, God save Mayak, because part of equipment are really old, and they also, when the commercial interest is much more higher than the interest of nuclear safety and nuclear security, I think can give us a new nuclear accident.
And a final thought, do you still hope to return home? Do you want to go back to Russia? Would you ever go back to Ozersk?
Yes, I would like to back in Russia. I would like to back in my city, in my region, because first of all, I would like to be connected with the local people. I should see the situation by my own eyes, and also I would like to continue my job to defend people, to improve the law, and I miss my Ural and I miss my city if it's a nuclear hell.
Nadezhda Kutepova, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
It's been
much.
fascinating.